and welcome to the Cathedral of the Eternal Night. It's such an edgelord name, but good God, what a place.
It's beautiful.
Good
really
God.
Nice.
This is your new 5-man dungeon that is coming with 7.2, and my God, the Black Temple feels are real once you get inside here. They've pushed it all out to give the aesthetic of this place.
What I like about the core theme of it is it looks evil, but it doesn't look fell, it doesn't look barbaric, it's clean. It's like an opposite of like the areas in Suramar that you see.
Absolutely.
It's very clean, but it's dark at the same time.
Oh, it's sinister. It's real sinister. And the infestation grows as you go through it. So to set the scene for this dungeon is we are breaking in at the base of the tomb, and you can actually see the entrance to the tomb of Sargeras below you. We're on the upper balcony, and you can see all the Legion Fall soldiers, which come with the Broken Shore, fighting the demons down below. We can see one of the bosses from the Tomb of Sargeras raid.
Guarding the door, mate.
I love his model.
It looked very good.
Model. It's
was
such a
clean.
simple armor, but it's so brutal.
It was very, very clean, very simple. But even the little mechanics, like he's got a big staff in the air and he's siphoning what I'm assuming is energy or fel or souls into it. But his robe or his tabard, whatever he's got, it's like it's swaying. Like there's a force coming
really
towards
classy.
him.
I mean, we
really
did see him at BlizzCon, but to see him up in person, it's such a smooth, big, heavy, nasty armor that he's got there. He looks like he's not got much mobility, but he's going to crush your dick. And also behind there, just before the door, what we can see is all the things that we've been collecting throughout Legion, which are the Hammer of Khazad-Ragath, the Tears of Elune, and the Tidestone, are all in place in a very Ocarina of Time fashion, placed in front of there to unlock the doors to the tomb, which are all the things. So it's all been culminating towards this point.
Like a fell meta achievement, man.
Yeah, exactly, going into there. But that's not part of the 5-man. That's the raid down below. We can see that, and it looks gorgeous. But what we're going to do is move through the cathedral up to the very pinnacle of the cathedral.
Spire.
Yes. Now, there are some major lore points in here, so what we'll do is do them at the end. We'll talk about the actual dungeon first, but we'll pre-warn you before we get into the lore stuff, because there's some pretty exciting things that go on in this dungeon. So moving through, you get this Botanica vibe. Very Botanica vibe.
Absolutely. There's a lot of fountains with the flowers, and there's the... it looked like a statue of Elune just stood there, like with a really... ominous kind of astral light coming from the ceiling in a lot of spaces.
Again, it's this contrast that it's an actual very beautiful place. That has obviously corruption in there. And as you move through some various guards that have some really interesting buffs. So they have like a bubble that puts down on the trash that will give you 50% haste, which is good. Oh, it feels good. But it's also going to burn you. Yes. So healers, real sorry. All the DPS are standing in that. Sorry about that, but they're definitely standing in there. But nasty trash as well. I've got to point out that all the heroics have been buffed in 7.2. We've talked about that several times. The entire world of WoW has been buffed up. And this wasn't that easy. Now, I will say we did it in a total mix of players. This was not a Raiders 5-man. I was in there, probably the highest geared I'd say on my mage. You were probably just a close second there with your rogue, but we got a tank from the stream, another healer from the stream who'd never really healed, and another random DPS who came along on the Demon Hunter. So we ran mage, Demon Hunter, Rogue, Warrior Tank, and Holy Paladin was how we did it. And the trash killed us a couple of times because there's some very tight corridors. Real tight corridors that have some compact enemies in there that do a lot of AoE, some big fell going across the floor and all that. So we died a couple of times on trash because you don't know what's coming, which is the great thing about new dungeons is you've no idea what's around the next corner. You'll be traveling up some tight stairs. As I said, we're moving through the cathedral and suddenly there's a big sway of imps there that don't die in 2 hits like we're used to with imps where they'll just blow up because this is only heroic mode and there was a couple of nasty deaths there. But ultimately that's going to bring us to our first boss. Now I've got to say the boss names in there, not a fan of generally. So this is aggronox. Yeah,
the edgelord theme.
Yeah, they're trying to keep it this edgelord thing, but whatever. But aggronox is a big tree. So you've seen bosses like this before, of course, in Dark Heart Thicket. He's a little felled tree. Didn't do too much. Was definitely the easiest boss in there by a long way, I'd say, was aggronox. Which all he did really was put some poison pools on the floor. He did a very, very nasty attack on the tank, though. Hugely nasty attack.
Got Timber Smash.
Yeah, Timber Smash. I mean, I was watching the HP of the tank, and it just went Timber Smash, was casting, and then it went boom, and fuck you.
Yeah.
And it also debuffed you to increase the damage that you took from it. So that's like a soft enrage for the fight, because eventually your tank's going to get smashed by Timber Smash. But the only other thing I did was I was the only ranged DPS, as I kept getting targeted with Fixate from lashes that spawned in different areas of the room, and they started traveling towards me very slowly, but they had no HP. Like, I just soloed that entire mechanic while the guys finished off the boss. So not a particularly worrisome boss, you don't have to worry about that. We then moved up. Continuing up the cathedral.
We did.
Yeah, and who was next on our list?
It was Thrashbite the Scornful.
Be warned.
Oh, this,
Be
mate.
fucking warned.
This was well funny. We was actually attacking a mob, and he was casting something. We actually did get from the standard Blizz UI that said, look away. But I couldn't be bothered. I thought we was going to kill it, so I carried on the DPS. And it does the whole blind thing like, what's the boss in Nighthawk called?
Starbro.
Starbro. Yeah, well, it's Starbro. Now, it blinded us. Our entire screen, like, turned white. And during that time, it died from our dots. When we got our vision back, there was a boss already stood on us, which
it stood
was
on me
Thrashbite.
and just landed on me and fucking...
And it absolutely just obliterated
First
us.
wipe.
So,
First wipe to Thrashbite.
I think that's the trigger from when we actually clear the trash in the room.
Yeah, so just don't stand in the fucking middle. That's the biggest tip we'll give you is don't stand in the fucking middle, because Thrashbite is coming and he's going to fucking kill you real quick. I should also point out, this dungeon contains lots of mini mini bosses.
It does.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's like 3 mini bosses in here. There's one before Thrashbite. There's another spider one that we'll get to shortly. But there are several mini bosses in there that have their own sort of individual boss style mechanics. They're not difficult to kill by any means, but they are in there.
I like that. I like that. It's a nice.
Yeah, it was
little bit
really
of
nice because we
variation.
weren't sure. We were actually checking if they were listed as bosses, and they weren't. But they definitely have their own boss style mechanics to them. But Thrashbite was the most bugged boss that we did do, which is on the PTR. That's fully expected, but very, very interesting. Great idea going on here because it's obviously very similar to the one that's in Blackrock Hold, Smash Spite, who's up there. He's a very similar type of boss, but a much better model. His model is so good. But this mechanic is he will target someone with a fixate, a ranged or a healer, we figured out. We thought it was only ranged DPS. Yeah, you're in the library, and he will target a ranged player, and he says he's casting his gaze upon you. Now, you'll see that there's bookcases around, and the idea is that person runs behind a bookcase, he charges, he crashes into the bookcase, and then he's immediately going to follow it up by whirlwinding the outer edge of the room. Now, the way this is supposed to work is when he smashes into the bookcase, he slows everybody a lot, which makes it difficult to get out of the edge of the room before he kills you, because he will kill you with the whirlwind. And then he repeats that phase. He also does an AoE, a room-wide AoE damage.
Very short cast time as well.
Yeah, very short cast time room-wide AoE. Unfortunately for us, though, he didn't seem to give a shit about bookcases.
You know what annoyed me is it's got such an interesting mechanic as well when he actually hits the bookcase and smashes it, because when he obviously hits this, it smashes all these ancient tomes everywhere, and you can get one of 3 debuffs from them. The first is called Fettering Fiction, which the actual flavor text for each minute says, runes spring forth from the magical book, slowing all players. So basically you smash in these magical tomes and they have a random effect on you. The second one's Beguiling Biography, which, let's say this, entrancing narrative charms and charms a player. And the last one is good as well. It's basically a musical book called The Stiffing Satire, where the tome opens and all the magic is absorbed by the pages.
Yeah.
So you
silences
you. It's such a good...
seconds.
That little thing, like the little bit of flavour, the fantasy of being in a magical library, that when you smash into them, it's going to have an effect on these magical tomes.
Yeah.
And it does. So
No,
I
the
like
only
that.
problem we had was, though, is that the bookcases were totally random
And the
whether
boss
they
runs
worked
straight
or
through
not.
them.
Yeah, oftentimes you just clipped through them. So we had a pull where we managed to get 3 bookcases to break. On our kill, though, none of the bookcases broke.
No.
We tried them all.
Just a case of dodging him.
Yeah, we just ended up dodging him. But it's still a very fun fight. And although he does this phase very, very quickly, it's almost immediately after the whirlwind phase, he's going to target someone else, which means you have low DPS time. And it's also very hard to DPS him when he's spinning around the room because the bookcases block line of sight.
Yeah.
But as he breaks more bookcases, you're going to get more damage on him and continue to like speed up the fight that way. So it's a very, very high movement fight, which I thought was really cool. Immediately after that then, spiders. Like literally in the next room, the fucking spiders are there. And then the entire place starts to descend into a much more dark style.
Ascend, mate.
Ascend into a dark style. So the spider webs are everywhere. Again, we're going to then encounter a little mini boss of spiders. And that's going to bring us to our third boss. Again, with these fucking... these names, man. Go on, you say it. I don't want to.
Domatrax.
Domatrax. But it also signals the return of God King's... No, the Aegis of Aggronox. The Aegis of Aggronox is back. The big shield is back. But this time you're not using it yet. You're not holding it up yet. This time the shield works kind of differently. It forms a circular shield in the center of the room. Where domatrax is obviously one of the big fell guys that you've seen several times. If you've done Archway, you know the guys in there. Or if you did Hellfire Citadel, in fact, you know what's in there.
He's got the soul cleave.
Yeah, he's got the soul cleave. So damage done at the Aegis will shrink it, making it more difficult to get in. So you notice it'll start big and then it starts getting smaller the more damage it absorbs. The real reason the Aegis exists and creates this bubble is to protect you from when he gets full energy and he's going to AoE the whole room really quite nastily.
And it hurts.
It hurts a hell of a lot. So the idea is that you just simply wait till it gets 100 energy, move inside the Aegis shield, it absorbs it, go back out and keep
You have to defend that shield as well.
Yeah.
Because if it takes damage, because at some point you'll spawn adds which summon open portals and then things come from the portals and will damage the shield. The more the shield gets damaged, the smaller your shield will be when it comes to the AoE.
Exactly. It keeps, the more things that happen to that, it's all right. The more things that happen to that, shrink the shield down. Now, as Andy just mentioned there, he opens portals, and these portals have a little portal guardian that you can kill to close the portal. So that all made sense to us until, again, this boss did bug out, unfortunately, and stopped summoning the portals, which was no big deal. We knew the mechanics. That's how the fight goes down. So you basically try and avoid any damage hitting the shield, stand in the shield when you're supposed to, get out and DPS him. Not a particularly difficult boss, but still... Gotta say, the room he's in is fucking awesome.
It looks so good. The actual, like, aggressive fellfire just firing outside the windows.
Yeah. In the same room, then, you're going to fight the last boss. Again, massively trying to dodge spoilers here about what's going on. So, at this point, I hope if you're not interested in spoilers, please don't look at the screen and we'll describe what happens without spoilers. But it is Mephistroth. Mephistroth, which you've seen since Warcraft 3. He is the last boss. Mephistroth was... okay, but he only really had one mechanic. But it's a good mechanic, to say the least. So there's a lot going on. He's going to dot people, and that's about it. He's got Carrion Swarm, the usual shit you'd expect from that. But that's kind of all nonsense. Yeah, it's a couple of players get marked to spawn spikes out the ground, but they literally just appear and disappear. The main mechanic is the Aegis of Aggronox.
It was... I really liked it, though.
I like it. I'm dreading casual pugs dealing with it. I'm dreading casual pugs. So you will know the Aegis of Aggronox from, of course, Halls of Valor, where the tank is to use the item, or any player, in fact, can use the item to defend against Ragnarok. Against Mephistroth, what happens is he goes and disappears, similar to Tichondrius in the Nighthold, and he spawns little shadow versions of himself. And these fire these really enormous, nasty shadow bolts at somebody. And the idea is that you all stand in the very middle, and the tank or whoever has the item uses the Aegis of Aggronox, and their job is literally to look all around the room, because it's a circular room and these shadow things can spawn anywhere, and block these orbs from hitting somebody in the middle of the room while somebody does something. And that's it. And the rest of us just kind of stand there, and if you're ranged, you can kill the shadows, but they do respawn. And then once it's been done, the phase goes back to its first phase. The problem we had is at the same time, there are fellbats barraging the room.
They do.
Which makes being melee kind of a pain in the ass and healing a pain in the ass. This phase can't go on too long. You have to get out of it quite quickly because it's continuously stacking a dot on you. It
is.
And very quickly, I started ticking for over 100,000 a second, and that was really, tanking health on every player in the dungeon. But overall, and then you defeat him, that is the end of the dungeon. Wonderful dungeon. Absolutely
wonderful. It was really nice. There was some interesting, and even though they were simple, but some original boss mechanics in there as well.
Very original boss mechanics. Love the inclusion of some mini bosses. Love the way, and this is like kind of nerdy, but loved the way the mobs are located with all the different side rooms, because there's a ton of side rooms and doors to be opened, which so far have nothing in them. Maybe they will later.
The layout of these side rooms were like little chapels as well.
Yeah, like little prayer rooms almost. But tanks who are overgeared are going to have a whale of a time in here. And so is AoE, because you're going to be able to get this mad haste buff, gather tons and tons of adds together, because they're laid out. And I could tell from my tanking experience, I was like, I would love to tank this dungeon, because there are some great opportunities to place death balls and stuff. So that's the overall view of the dungeon. Literally 9 out of 10 for me. Had a fucking blast in there. Thought it was gorgeous. Thought the bosses were all interesting. All had cool things going on. Looking forward to it in Mythic Plus. Looking forward to it going forward. So now we're going to get into spoiler territory. So if you don't want to hear it, turn away. So Illadiggle's in there.
He is.
Illadiggle is in there. You meet him after the second boss. As you approach the Aegis of Agramar at the top of the cathedral, you're going to bump into Illadiggle and...
Maiev, mate.
And Maiev. And what do they do, mate? You can...
Well, they have a bit of bants back and forward.
Yes, they do.
That's what they do. When you're ascending the spire to get the big bad, and they basically say, look, you go on ahead and wreck him. We're going to make sure that no one comes behind you. So they both guard the stairs together.
They stand side by
They stand side by side. There's a bit of back and forward between them like we had in the solo scenario, but it's the fact that it's the last people you'd expect to work together. They try to really emphasize the gravitas of how dire their situation is, the fact that now they're going to have to stand together. So they defend you.
Maev's like... it's hard for me to tell which to kill with your
I can't tell the difference between the demons and you.
When that's all said and done, they come up and they're like, all right, we did some good shit. And then we receive a particular message from a very important lore character indeed, which most of our stream lost their fucking minds. Lady Aegwyn turns up.
I don't know who she is.
Well, let's just say for lore bros, yes. Yes,
it's Bonus City.
It's Bonus City.
Nice.
Aegwyn shows up and gives a big message, and then it's just cool. And a wonderful culmination to a great dungeon. All right, guys, there you go. It's Cathedral of the Eternal Night. It's dark like my soul.